I want to talk about the importance of employee retention. We talk a lot about customer retention, but there is a whole conversation around employee retention, which I think is worth having and noting some things about. So when you think about the people on your team and what they want, a lot of times what they're wanting is several things. So they want stability, they want clear communication, they want respect, they want to feel empowered, they want to feel supported. Team members, employees like recognition, and they also want opportunities for growth. So if you think about all those things, think about your team and ask yourself, am I doing any of these things? Am I providing this to them? These are the things that people want in order to stay, because most of the time, it's not always about money. People, we always want money. We always need money. We need money to live and survive. But in order to have somebody that's really dedicated to you and to your team and to what you're trying to accomplish, there are so many other things that come into play besides just the money. Because there are people, you could be making great money at a job, but if you think about, put yourself in that position, as the employee, if you're making great money, but you can't stand to go to work every day and you hate the people you work with and nobody ever listens to you and you don't feel appreciated or valued, eventually that is going to far exceed the money benefit. And that's when people leave. Nobody wants to feel unappreciated. So that's really important that you're doing that. Some things that you can do that tie into that you can, like action items that you can actually do with these people is, the people on your team communicate clearly and often. And that was a hard lesson I had to learn myself, because when I was first starting to lead a team, I didn't really understand about how important communication was and how to communicate. And I would have things here and I would just, assume that they would know what I wanted or what I was talking about. And so a lot of mistakes were made, but I learned from that, and sharing this with you so that you understand it is important to communicate with people. Even if you think it's not super important, it could be something that's important to them. So make sure that you're communicating clearly and often with the people on your team. Another thing you want to make sure you're doing with your employees is providing coaching and feedback. So you can't just expect to plug somebody in a position, give them, what they need, and then just turn them loose and never, follow up with them, never coach them, never guide them or give them feedback. If you hold those things in and you don't communicate, giving them feedback and things like that, that's going to create issues down the road, because they might be thinking they're doing a great job, but if you're not giving them the feedback that they are or aren't, they're not going to know. They're not going to know unless you tell them. So you have to provide the feedback. And if it's negative feedback, part of that is to coach them. How can you improve? What can you do, to have better performance from them based on that feedback? Coming up with a plan for that. It's very important that you're giving feedback and communicating with them that way. Another thing that plays into employee retention is your company culture. So check in with your people, see, how's your culture? Is it good? Is it a culture of open communication, sharing of ideas? Do people feel valued? That all is tied to your culture and your core values. So if people aren't feeling, if they're not enjoying the culture of the company, either they don't belong there, or you might need to reevaluate your culture and make some changes there. Another thing you can do to keep employees just is find ways to appreciate and reward them. And this doesn't even have to be big things. This doesn't always have to be monetary rewards or bonuses, things like that. A lot of times just recognizing them with a compliment is very effective. A lot of times we get stuck and we don't say anything when people are doing good. We only want to point out when something bad happens. The 1 Minute Manager is a great book, and one of the things that they talk about in there is catching people doing something right. And I love that idea, because I feel like too often, especially when you have employees, there's a temptation you assume that if you don't complain, if you're not getting onto them about something, that everything's okay. But you're never saying, hey, you did a good job with that. You're just kind of pointing out like, there was a mistake here or something. So look for opportunities to catch people doing something right and they will appreciate it. Another thing that's important in keeping employees is seeking feedback from them. So not only are you providing feedback to them, but ask them for their feedback. Ask them how you're doing as a leader. Maybe there are things that you could be doing differently that you don't even realize that's affecting your company culture or affecting the way you're running your business, that they could have some good input on that. So make sure that you seek feedback from your employees as well. And the final thing with employee retention would be to make sure that you're providing opportunities for growth and personal development. A lot of times people leave companies because they feel they can't go any further in the company. And if you can give them sort of a roadmap, a guide, I know you're here, but I want to get you here. Or where do you want to go in the organization? How can we make that happen? If people know that there's somewhere to go, then they're more likely to stay. If they just feel stuck in the same position and they look at that and say, my gosh, I'm going to be doing the same thing for the next 20 years and I'm never going to move up and nothing's ever going to change, that's really frustrating for most people. So you want to make sure that you're providing opportunities for them to grow in their role, maybe moving up, and also, with just personal and professional development. Make sure that if there's some resource that you can provide to them, if there's a conference you can send them to that would be helpful, a book that you can give them, a podcast you can recommend. It's just something to keep people growing. It shows that you care, but it also makes everything better. It makes your whole company better when you have a team of people who are wanting to grow and wanting to be better. That really makes a big difference in your organization.